Welcome to our first At the Table Forum in 2026. Today, we are going to be exploring higher education and the trades with our guest. I'm Jay Langston. I am the Executive Director of the Shenandoah Valley Partnership. And today we have Dr. David Bushman with Bridgewater College and Chris Weaver with Lantz Construction. I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Bushman, to give a little bit of background on Bridgewater College.
Sure. Bridgewater College is a primarily residential liberal arts college. We've been here in Bridgewater since 1880, 1,400 students. We have alumni all across the country and all across the world. We have a focus on education, not just for the first job our graduates are going to get, but for the jobs they'll have after that, and also to be constructive and productive members of all the different communities they'll be a part of. We're an NCAA D3 institution. About 40% of our students are student athletes. That's an important part of our identity. The athletic experience is not just great leadership for the students, of course. It connects the campus populations, faculty and staff and students, but it connects us to our community and the broader community. And it's a great way to stay in touch with alumni. So it is, when you think of what college is, that's how I think of Bridgewater. I've been here for 13 and a half years. I love this place. This is home, and it is great to be in the Shenandoah Valley.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you, Jay. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you, Dr. Bushman, for hosting. I'm Chris Weaver, the President and CEO of Lantz Construction Company. We have been a construction company since 1960 here in the Shenandoah Valley. We specialize largely in commercial and industrial construction. We're 100% employee owned, and we work up and down the Shenandoah Valley and over into the Piedmont region as well as West Virginia.
Thank you, Chris. My first question to you is, we're very fortunate here in the Valley. We have 10 higher education institutions in this, and that is part of what I think makes the fabric of the Valley work really well. But people don't typically associate trades, which they always associate with construction, with higher ed. Could you elaborate on some of the collaboration that you've had with Chris and Lantz Construction?
Sure.
And what this means?
Yeah, a lot of people think that a college education is first and foremost, maybe exclusively job training, but it's really not. It can be, but it's much more than that. And so for us, educating our students to be gainfully employed, and we send them through internships and onto jobs to businesses throughout the Valley, of course, including Lantz. But for us, it's about building relationships in the community. And gosh, we've worked with Lantz now since well before I was here. So many of the projects on this campus. And building those relationships is both, it's integral to us. I think it's part of our DNA. We believe in relationships in our educational experience. We think that's the best way to educate young people. But it's also relationships with the town, with the county, and with the region more largely. And that includes the business. And so when we establish good relationships and we maintain them over a long period of time, it enhances the value. It is a huge value added for the college to know that I can call Chris and we can talk about projects that we've worked on in the past, and they can understand, they know who we are, they know our mission, and how do we want construction, in this case, to really help enhance that mission. So it's much more than transactional. And I could say the same things about so many other partners, business partners here in the Valley. And if you were interviewing any of the other leaders of the other higher ed institutions here, they would be saying exactly the same thing. And I think that fabric, that relational fabric between the business community, the higher ed community, all of it is one of the things that really sets this part, the Shenandoah Valley, apart from so many other locations.
Well said. I really appreciate that. Chris, from your perspective in running a construction company, and you have been engaged with Bridgewater over the years, along with a lot of other institutions, and in smaller communities, I'll let you elaborate more on what Dr. Bushman said.
Well, as Dr. Bushman said, Lantz has had the honor to work for Bridgewater College and be on its campus for several decades, and I've had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Bushman personally for over a decade. But in terms of general relationships from the business community, including Lantz. We try to stay engaged with all levels of education institutions throughout the valley and the region. I mean, it starts with K through 12, technical schools, community colleges, and of course institutions of higher education like Bridgewater College. And Bridgewater College being specific, we have a number of alumni from Bridgewater College who work at Lantz in different capacities. So it's a great relationship, and as a local business, we can't succeed without great students coming out of the institutions here in the Valley.
One of the things that I think people would ask, okay, you are hiring people of a lot of different skill sets, required 4-year degrees for some, but not everything. Yet at the same time, there's a connection between the higher ed and these skill sets. I would love to have each of you elaborate, there's a complementary process here, certainly with internships and experiential learning. I'll toss that to you, and we have about an hour we can fill with that.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll start with one example. A recent Bridgewater College graduate interned for Lantz during the summer and actually during the school year a little bit when he was off school, and we were fortunate enough to hire him full-time after his graduation this past spring. And again, he has both technical skills, but clearly he learned so many. I know the term soft skills gets used a lot, but he's a great people person. He's a great communicator. The young man has a great future, and a lot of that obviously is from him and his family and parents, but a lot of it's also from Bridgewater College.
Yeah, thanks. I'd add on, that means we're doing our job well. And a couple of observations. First, the experiential learning part is huge, and I think that is, anyone who doesn't recognize that, I think, is missing the boat. So yeah, a lot of learning goes on in the classroom, but we have emphasized undergraduate research, study abroad, internships. We want students to be engaged, to leverage what they've done in the classroom with their faculty, leverage it in real world settings to the greatest extent possible. And so those opportunities, and that takes a willing business community, and that really is, aside from, look, we're a business, Bridgewater College is a business, it's a very special kind of business, but we depend on relationships with all the other businesses in the community. So it's a win-win, and in the case of internships, doubly so, because it gives our students that experience. Sometimes the best internships are not the ones that lead to a job. It's the ones where the student goes, wow, that is not what I am cut out to. That's not what I want to do. Both are equally valuable. And when it turns into a job and a benefit to the business who sponsored the internship, that's fantastic. But it's the exercise of doing it. It's getting our students out in the community. It's building those relationships in lots of different ways. And you never know where that's going to pay off down the road. I think, and I said this earlier, it's not just the degree at the end of the day. It's not just the skills that you learn. I think it is, I tell prospective students that an education, and particularly our education, is very well, it's purposeful, it's intentional. We build it in a certain way because we understand the habits of mind that are going to be those soft skills, the way you think about the world. Because many of our students are going to be engaged in professions, particular jobs that don't even exist today. And so how do you prepare them to be intellectually agile? How do you prepare them to be a lifelong learner and to leverage what they can do today with this unknown future? I tell them, we're helping you pack for a journey, for a trip, when you don't know the final destination, and you might not even know the stops along the way. How do you do that? And so this experience, it's much more than just job prep. It is about a life well lived.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier, and I always go off script, so don't be scared, because I think both of you can easily answer this. But from your perspective, Chris, what he just said about the experiential learning, I know that this is something, particularly in your field, very important. How does this higher ed help in that process, and for those that you're interested in gaining the additional knowledge in a career path that they might not have thought of when they first started with Lantz. And then, because I'm afraid I will forget, I want to go back to the sports side of things too, of the question related to that. So,
well, I think in general, a lot of times, industries like construction and other trades sometimes can get looked at very differently than kind of traditional higher education. But the reality is, we're in the modern world, and the modern world requires skills at all levels, and in all professions. There's technical skills, certainly, IT skills. I mean, talk about evolving and changing, and then the soft skills that were mentioned, the people skills, and all those have to take place to be successful at any level of career, whether it be more on the field side or the technical side, or more on the kind of professional side of things. So all those kind of merge together, and you really got to have a diverse, you really have to have a diverse workforce that have all those skill sets lined up to work well, especially in the modern world.
You mentioned something, and I'm probably going to, if I can remember, I'm going to probably come back to you again with a question related to that. But you mentioned the sports, and it is a school that's pretty well known for a lot of student athletes here. I actually had a nephew who played baseball here, very successful career now, not in baseball, but in sort of the sports. Talk about what that does for both the college and the students.
Yeah, no, that's.
And I'm sorry, I'm pointing. I said I would.
That's a great. It's a great
hands.
question. And I'm, of course, I love the D3 model because it's the student athlete, and we talk about them exactly that way. And there are advantages. I mean, there are gifted athletes playing at the highest level in collegiate sports, and some of our athletes are achieving at that level, but they are here because they're not going to be professional in that sport, but they love the game and they don't want to stop. And that is what brought them to this place. And there's a lot that goes on behind that. So our coaches are very much mentors, and just as faculty are, and they're helping develop a whole different suite of skills: leadership skills, communication skills, skills of self-discipline and motivation. All of that factors in. And so for us, the student athlete experience, our student athletes are in many cases some of our very best students. They're certainly leaders on campus in lots of ways, and when they graduate, when they get that job, when they have the internship, and then they go in a field that may be completely unrelated to athletics or to sports, they know what it means to work hard, they know what it means to sacrifice, they know what it means to hold themselves accountable, not just for their own success, but for the success of a team. And I think in almost any walk of life, it's that team concept, the ability to communicate effectively and think about the well-being of others. And we do that in curricular ways, we do that in lots of ways at the college, but certainly the student athletes are a great example of it. And yeah, we've had some great success. We've had individual national champions here in a variety of sports, and we came just within a hair's breadth of the football national championship 20 years ago, and I am reminded of that every day talking to alumni. But it is you don't have to win a national championship to reap the benefits that the student athlete experience provides.
Thank you. Something that Dr. Bushman, you alluded to earlier, and I think it plays in, Chris, to what you were talking about, is we are often perceived as rural, and it's true. We're, not even 400,000 people for a very large footprint, yet we have many of the attributes of metro area because, thankfully, our higher institutions here. You alluded to the collaboration, you alluded to the partnerships, and Chris, I kind of throw it over to you because you were talking about soft skills, and this is something that is becoming even more crucial in your business. AI, all of these people, they don't understand it. All your tradespeople are probably working with computers and working on computers. How do you get them up to the skill levels with the higher ed institutions here? Because I don't believe they perceive that there is a connection. We've talked a little bit about it, but are you able to get those kind of skills from the institutions that are here?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we work with a number of institutions for kind of continued learning opportunities as things kind of evolve at a whole series of different levels, and we support. And a lot of times, it's more about the leadership and professional development side of things, because when you mentioned AI and IT, a lot of that is you just provide folks with the tools. They can very much teach themselves, especially the younger generations, of that along. I mean, I'm not going to ever be able to teach anybody anything about AI, but we want to provide the opportunity for them to use those tools in a manner that helps us as a company and as a team become better at what we do.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. From my perspective, higher ed has been evolving. As long as there's been higher ed, it has to evolve and deal with advances in technology. And we pride ourselves on helping our students imagine a world different than maybe the way it is today. We pride ourselves on helping our students think of things, to take themselves out of their particular time and place and imagine a different way of being. And that is precisely because the world is changing increasingly rapidly around them. So I think from my perspective, it's less about, and certainly we are invested in helping our students and faculty and staff grapple with and master the best ways, ethical ways to employ AI as a tool. It's a tool. Calculators were a tool when you set the slide rule aside, right? We've lived this. When Google when you could do a Google search, right? That was brand new. I was on the faculty too many decades ago before email existed. And so, the world moves around you. And so how do you not just learn to master a tool, which in so many ways is static, but to create a context, not just for what can we do, but maybe what should we do and how should we use this to advance really mission critical goals, the well-being of our community. And so it's not, our students will graduate with facility and AI and all kinds of very specific skills. And even if they're not leveraging them, say at Lantz or any other particular business, the more people in the community, the broader that understanding is, the more likely it is that it's going to benefit the businesses. I mean, we know for Bridgewater, 70% of our students are from Virginia, and the majority of those are from within a 100-mile radius of campus. So this is the Shenandoah Valley Partnership footprint.
Yeah.
So not only do we recruit locally, the students from outside there are more likely to stay in this region when they graduate. And certainly the students who are in this region growing up are more likely to stay here. So we are investing in the future of the valley with the work that we're doing. And some of it manifests directly in jobs and in careers with local businesses, with partners we've worked with. Some of it manifests in completely different ways. Teachers in the school system. I mean, we could go through the entire list of our majors and where our students go. That's an investment in this community. We benefit, the businesses, the community at large benefits from that.
One of the other things that you have talked about is that we are large enough to have some of the amenities and so forth. From your perspective, what do you think are the advantages that we have from a business and an education standpoint in our region? Chris, I'll let you start off if you'd like.
Well, I think as Dr. Bushman talked about businesses, including Lantz here in the Valley, we want to see young people who are either here or come here, stay here and work and live here. That's a good thing for all the businesses in the Valley, and that's why a lot of businesses like Lantz try to stay engaged at all different levels of the education system. But it's also from a people standpoint. You mentioned rural earlier. Yeah, we're sort of rural, but as the crow flies, I mean, we're within near distance to major metro areas, whether it be kind of the Northern Virginia area or the Richmond metro area, and there's a lot of people that live here who either work there or work for companies there. So we're kind of in that middle between rural and not rural, and I think that helps. Yeah. That helps. The advantage there is it can create a wonderful kind of work-life balance, given all the amenities that we have here in the Valley.
Yeah, that is something.
Yeah, I'd add to that too, and I was struck by your comment about people thinking we're rural, and I get it. I understand why for all the the numbers that you gave, but the truth is there's a great transportation system here. This is not isolated in the sense that there's great highway access. We've got great airport access very close by. Transportation is an asset in this region, and it is, as you've said, this area is seductive. People come here to work or to learn, and they put down roots. They stay. So there's something about this mix. We're close enough without getting caught up in kind of the challenges of a more urban environment, but we are certainly accessible. And we tell our prospective students and families that all the time. And anybody who's traveled around at all, there are areas that are truly rural that do have that isolated feel. We have all the amenities, but we don't feel isolated. And I think that's hard to explain. It's hard to put into a spreadsheet, right. But it's the lived reality on the ground.
Yeah, definitely. Those were the questions that I had for the both of you. Anything that you would like to add to the discussion?
Well, it kind of touches on a number of things we talked about, but something I thought about was in my previous career before Lantz, almost 20 years ago when I got to Lantz, I had the opportunity to travel all around the United States and work in a number of different communities all around the country. And not too long after I got here 20 years ago, it didn't take me long to recognize that, to me, the Shenandoah Valley is like the Midwest of the Mid-Atlantic. There's a lot of hardworking people who are very focused on their families and the communities in which they live. So it's a really special place from a business standpoint to live and work.
Yeah, I'd add, I think the relational aspect of this is probably the thing that jumps out to me. They call Harrisonburg the friendly city. The friendliness, the welcoming nature, the hospitality that I experienced when I came here now a very long time ago. I mean, I'm not a native, but this is home. This campus is home. And that gives me some credibility with prospective students and families to talk about how special this place really is. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I do think we've got the best of both worlds, the best of all those. Something else, and this is very much from the higher ed perspective. Higher education provides a backbone to a community. If you think about it, the sports, the arts, the lectures. We had an endowed lecture last night that brought in community members from all over. It ties, and that's true for EMU, that's true for James Madison, it's true for, it binds a community together in ways that aren't simply transactional. And for me, that's why people care about each other here. There is a very high quality of life. You're exactly right. People not just work hard for themselves. I've been in lots of places where people work hard, but their heads are always down and they go home, and this is a place where people's heads are up and they're looking around and they're concerned about their own well-being, their family's well-being, but they're concerned about the well-being of the community more broadly. And for us, that's part of our Bridgewater, that's part of our identity. We are here. We are a place-bound campus, and while we certainly leverage online learning, place matters. And I think you could say the same thing about your business. I think, Jay, you could say that about the Shenandoah Valley Park. Place matters, and this is a great place.
Absolutely. You articulated it very well. I'm a newcomer as well, although I've been here 7 years now, but it is very much community. In Bridgewater is a community. Yes, it's a part of sort of the Harrisonburg area, but it's its own entity as well. The college is a big part of that, but it's not only that. As you were saying, there's a little theater that is just down the street from us. Here, Chris works in the town very close to where I live. It's its own community, and there is a different sense and of place in the area. And yes, Dr. Bushman said it best. The educational institutions here provide us with a quality of life that we would not have otherwise. You went to law school at W&L. We have VMI in Lexington, and that is its own community as well. And we have the same things here in this area. Anything else that you would like to expound on? I would, love your thoughts.
I do not, but I appreciate the opportunity and to be here and be with Dr. Bushman and you, and thank you very much.
Yeah, Jay, this has been great. And I would say that the relationships that we've built, and we've talked about internships and other things, but I think the relationships that higher ed builds with the business community in all the ways, and about economic development, that is one of the unique aspects of this community. And they are so tightly integrated and have been for many, many years before I got here, and to be a part of that legacy, to sustain and enrich it, it is different. It's not simply a location to put a business. It's a place where you're going to create a home, and that's a very special environment.
Yeah, I should add, and it may not be uncommon, but you and your peers, John Downey and our new president at Jim Smith with JMU, and I know that EMU has got a new president now, and you all communicate. And I don't know how often that is in other places, but there is, again, that what helps us make this community and working with business like you do too. Thank you. I should offer up to you before we close out where we are on Bridgewater and the building that we're in here.
Yeah. So we are sitting in the class of 1969 great room that was part of a major renovation we did to a 50-year-old library, a 60-year-old library. It is in so many ways, a completely new building. You wouldn't imagine it if you had been in the old building. And this particular room has a view almost of our entire campus, and it was designed that way on purpose. And if we weren't in here right now, there would be students sitting in all these chairs. And it's been part of an integrated approach to how we think about the work that we do. So this is home for our students. We've talked about home and place for businesses and for all of us. This is home for students. And so thinking about how do we enrich their education by this place? So old libraries used to be kind of like a grocery store. You'd go to get ingredients. This building is a kitchen. Students come here to make something. And it can serve many functions, as we've seen here today. Thank you for asking. I'm very proud of this campus and this building and all the donors who made this possible, and the businesses that we worked with. Yeah. But this didn't just happen. I didn't just conjure this up one weekend. Yeah, no, this is an example of the power of relationships in our community.
Thank you, Dr. Bushman, for hosting us. Chris.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. Chris also serves on the SVP board, and we appreciate your participation in making the community what it is. We're wrapping up this show. We hope that you have enjoyed understanding and learning more of the assets here in the Shenandoah Valley, and we'll see you next time at the Table Forum. Bye.